Oh, hey. Whenever that cat does that on me, I just think, taste the biscuits. Stupid. Anyways, welcome back. I'm in the garage working on the purple car, aka 1995 Chevrolet Impala SS for Super Sport. What are we doing today there, Chris? Stuff. You ready? Stuff. We got a list, right? Because what are we doing? What are we doing? We're taking this bad unit on Hot Rod Power Tour. We got a list. And on that list, we got shocks. So I got new shocks. I got the the Gabriel Ultras. Rock Auto filtered, you know, not the cheapest, but they're not the most expensive. They're like a heavy duty, not for a 9C1, not for an everyday driver, but a heavy duty shock. So I think they're 17 bucks a piece. Not bad at all. And I know some of you guys are thinking, oh, well, why didn't you go with the Bilsteins and da 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 da? Because I didn't want to spend $54 a shock, okay? All right? Because $300 versus 80 bucks, whatever. It's got 200,000 miles on it. It's got all the worn parts. If I was going to go that extreme, I'll just get QA1 stuff and then put all new 4-link and everything in the back. But I'm not going to because it's stock suspension. I'm just doing upgrades. So, along with that, I'm kicking around the idea. I'm like, you know what? It'd be cool. My 96, before I put bags on it, I had an Eibach lowering kit. So I had lowering springs, I think they were. Gave it like a nice drop on it. Rode kind of like, from what I remember, kind of like crap. But, you're 18-year-old kid with a 96 Impala SS that's 4 years old. You're like, oh, yeah, this was pretty cool. Well, eventually I ended up going back to the airbags and stock setup. But those Eibach springs, I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll get that look back for the car. And I Googled them. Now, they're still pretty pricey for the springs. So I did a Eibach lowering kit spring search, lowering springs search. Anyway, I did the filter on Eibach lowering springs, and I found some for $27 a piece. Let me show you. Right there. That's Ride Effects. That's just the sub-brand of Eibach. See, got the Eibach logo right here. Eibach. Ride Effects. These ones you can actually adjust. You can do ups or downs. So, I'm going to try these out and see what they do. They're little clampers things. And, before we go on there, what I want to do is I want to take one of these flexi stick with numbers on it. And I want to measure. So from ground level, we got to see we got some clearance. And I'm not looking for a major, huge improvement of drastically tucking wheel and all that. No, I ain't looking for all that. What I am looking for is just to kind of close up this gap a little bit. Maybe 2 inches would be nice. In the back, give a little bit more firmness, lower the center of gravity, see what it does. And in the front, what do we got? We got some more spacages right here. That's probably 2.5, 3 inches. So I don't know if I want to go super drastic on. Man, I'm gonna have to do something with them. Anyways, but we're gonna see what kind of measuring gap we got here. So the garage floor is pretty level, and if we do the front here, we got like 20, we'll call it 27.5 inches from the ground to the lip of the body on that molding. And as if we go to the passenger side, we do the same. We got 27 3/4, so we got a little bit of liftages going on the passenger side. And if we do the back, we're at 27 1/4, we'll say. Go to the other side, and we got, you know, just shy of 27. We'll just round up. We'll just say this side's 27. So that could be a couple different things. It could be shocks, it could be body mounts, could be just normal wear and tear, the way the car flexes. And when you're driving it, you always got a driver in the one side and it's just sagged down. I don't know. Could be the springs or twists. I don't really know. But what I'm saying is, cars sitting cattywampus, and I want it to sit less cattywampus, maybe a little lower. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to get these drop down and have all match on all four corners. So before I forgot, I wrote the numbers down there. Back shocks, you don't even have to take the rear wheels off. How nice is that? Well, welcome to the adventures of underneath the rear end of a 95 Impala STS. Anyways, here's the rear shock. You got the exhaust. It's in your face. You can see there's a spring, and then right up there's the top of the shock mount. And as you come over here and look, you got two. You got one on each side. Now, bottom one, you got just one. And it's a solid piece. Best thing to do, I've found, support the thing with jack stands. Get a jack under your rear end to hold it up. And then knock those two top ones off. They're 10 mil. And then go to town on this one, because this one's usually stuck on. As you can see, I put some penetrating lube on it. So I'm going to do that now. After laying under here and you're spinning on a nut and you're wondering, well, how come it's not coming off? Then your brain kicks in and it's like, something's not right. Keep going. So you keep going. Well, wait a minute, nothing's happening. Then you remember, your brain kicks in again, that there's a nut on top of where that shock is, and that's why these rear shocks suck. Let me show you. So if I recall correctly, how to get to that one was something like fishing my hand through the control arm and the exhaust and bending it silly where it hurts, and hopefully we land on top of a shock there in the, what is that called? It's called the, this little cup holder doodad majigger. And you want to get it on there, you want to, just get it on there. The reverse side is you got to put the new one on and get them going too. So I got to get this done. See what I'm going to do. Sorry for the light. My hand is currently wedged up behind the axle over the exhaust with a 13 millimeter boxed wrench, barely reaching the top end of the shock, and we got it on top of that nut, and hopefully, nope, that just slipped off. Hopefully I can hold it up here long enough to get it off. The other thing is I gotta get the inner one. So fun days in the neighborhood. Yay. Okay, well, here I am. Springs are out, both sides. Hang on to these rubbers, because those will come in handy here in a little bit. If you ever got weird vibrations in the back, it's because your rubbers are blown out on your springs. Anyways, what we're at is I had to take the springs out, because as you can see, the shocks are still bolted up. Well, one's bolt is still up on the both sides. Got the bottom undone, both sides. And, well, I'll just say that that's a pain because it's got some corrosion on it that I got to deal with. And the area is a little easier to work with without the springs in there. Plus, remember at the beginning of this video when I said I was just going to use those little clamps and, you know, clampolate those springs down to get my lowering? I lied. I got an Eibach lowering kit. That's what we're putting on. So that's what this video is about. So I got new lowering springs. 1.2 inches in the front, inch in the rear. That's what I was going for. Hopefully it levels it out. Those I actually have for another project in mind. Put them on the shelf right now. So that's where I'm at. So yeah, I'm gonna go grab some lunch. Get back underneath here with the seized on bolt. Other side, I had to get the death wheel out to cut that bottom one off because it was just a bugger. Anyways, so the new shocks don't come with new hardware. That's the old stuff that came out. Since it was such a pain in the butt to get that one specifically off the bottom, I got some new grade 8 hardware that I'm gonna install with some lock washers because I think that's gonna be a lot better than that other junk. So I'll throw some of this lock washers on and I'll get them installed. So many hours later, few choice words, nice bloody lip when a shock falls on your face. You get to the point where you're ready to install some springs. So that's the kit. Those are for the front. That's for the rear. Installations on, instructions on there, but they're pretty simple. They got lettering on them, and it just says put that facing up. So what I like to do is put the lettering facing up, and then you take your cushions and you put them on. I like to take duct tape or black tape and black tape them up so they don't fall, because you don't want that moving when it goes up into your spring perch, because that'd be bad, because you want that in there for insulation. So once those are all ready to go in, just make sure your insulation things are good to go, and pop them back in the same way that you put the old ones out. Then you move on to the front. So just a quick comparison. New ones, old ones are actually the same height. You just got a 30-year-old, you know, it's been compressed for 30 years, you know, spring versus lowering kit. And if one were to count the little curly cues, including the top and the bottom, you got on the Eibach 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and on the GM stock one you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're gonna have a little bit stiffer of a ride, but it'll compress it down and it should be good. So let's get these in. So when and if you do this, you're gonna have one side that's harder to get the spring in versus the other. So make sure you got a jack ready to jack the pig up. But you're gonna have to fight it in, squish it in, bebop it in, whatever. You know, it sucks. So get these in, and that's why I taped up those ones, because I don't want that falling off in there and dealing with it and everything else. Let's see. If you got a twist, bend, move stuff, get out of here. Do it with one hand. Get out of there. It helps if I point the camera at it. So that's gonna sit up in there, and our lower one, I put the lower rubber in already on top of the axle. That one just hangs there. That's what it's going to look like. You can't adjust these where they sit and try to get that four corner like we measured at the beginning of the video squared away, but I'm pretty confident that these are going to be just fine where they sit. You just gotta make sure they go into where they need to in the perch and whatnot. So I'm gonna get the other side in. We'll jack it up, bolt the shock up right there, and then do the same on the other side. Be done with the rear and move on to the front. So I don't know if you can actually see that one. I don't have that bottom perch in there good enough. I gotta move it over. But that's not gonna work. No, that ain't gonna work. Move it over. Other side is good, I think. Should be. Yeah, that's what I mean, is it's just a balancing act of trying to get it to where it needs to be. Also, it's worth mentioning while you're under here and you start lifting the axle up where the stuff is sitting, make sure you got like your brake lines are cleared, fuel lines, those are all clear, your exhaust, it clears your axle, because you don't want any of this stuff rubbing, because that would not be good. So I'm going to put the phone down and actually get this lined up, and then I'll be back with you. So one other thing that's worth mentioning is I went ahead and I put this bottom part to the back on both sides. That's what matched. The Eibach wording is just over here, so it's, you know, it's back there. So something to think about for the way you want it sitting in that perch. Well, the rear now is dropped. Setting down. I'll put back the other. So let's measure out what we got here. So before, driver's side rear was at 27 inches. And now we're about 26 and a half, I'd say. 26 3/4, which is to be expected because new shocks, got to let everything settle at some point. Checking out the passenger side. Passenger side is, let's see, about the same, 26 and 3/4. So, if I remember right, we were off kilter on our rear end. Yeah, so the passenger side rear is 27 1/4. We're at 27. So we level it out, so that's good. Both 26 and 3/4. So now I gotta move on to the front side and we gotta dive into that. So to get to the front, obviously you have to pull the front wheels off, jack it up, support it. So if you guys have made it this far, congratulations. I'm about to teach you on a cheat code that I learned about doing brakes. Ready? Go. If you've ever done brakes on a GM vehicle from 2000 and earlier, including the Impala, they have this awesome setup back here on the caliper where you got this big, giant Allen hex key looking, it's a slide pin, and it's Allen wrench. So everyone and their brother's got this big giant Allen key, and you just, you know, you put it in there, and you twist it, and you twist it, and you pull it out and twist it. It just takes forever, because sometimes they're in there, and they just take forever to slide out. The threads are actually over here, right? So what you do is you take your Allen key like this, and you bring it over to your workbench. And when you got it on your workbench over here, then what? Well, you put it in your vise, and you snip an end of it off. I don't care how much you take off, just take off chunk. I took off that. Then what you want to do is come back over and pop that bad boy in. And you can see I've cut a couple links, had one laying on the floor. You pop that in to the Allen key. Then you take a 3/8 inch socket on your socket wrench, and you go ahead and put it on there, and then you just, you know, presto, change-o. You're not sitting here for hours and hours trying to get those off. Top, bottom works both sides. C's, you get a little bit more leverage. You know, all the fun. Come on. Well, hard to do one-handed, but you get the point. Then when you're done, just put it with your brake parts in your toolbox, and then you got it for when you need it the next time. Tell you what, I made one, lost it. Had the little ball end on it. It was really nice. Made it outrun this one. Made that outrun that one. And I still got more on that wrench. I'm not going to lose it this time. Probably will. But I got more if I do. I'll just chop it off again. So a quick visual inspection on what I'm checking for on the brakes is the line. Make sure that rubber soft line is not looking too terrible. I might order some up because they're cheap enough and they're cheap insurance. Usually when they get to about this age, they get soft and they'll allow for your brake pressure to come through, and they will let the caliper squeeze, but the springs inside here won't retract enough to push it back through because it's makes a blockage in there, and then it's not good. So rubber soft lines are cheap enough. They maybe like 14 bucks a piece. Cheap insurance, because if they blow out, then you're really screwed. But I might change those out because I'm in here. Caliper, you make sure it's in good working order. You know, you got these little bushings right in here. Make sure they're free, they move around. The slide pins that you saw we just pulled out, I'm going to clean those up with the wire wheel because they always get nasty like that. And then just put a little bit of grease on them. It's not going to hurt. You can see I got anti-seize on there, so that works really well. And then your pads, they look in spec and they're not squealing. You know, they got that little squealer thing right here. They're not touching, they're good. Rotor, make sure it's, you know, not grooved, whatever. So we're good there. Of course, I did all these brakes probably just 2 years ago. Rock Auto power stop setup. It was a whole kit. It's really nice, really cheap. We did wheel bearings on it. Now would be a good time too if you want to repack the wheel bearings while you're in here, but I'm not going to because they felt tight when I had the wheel on there. But yeah, so now we're going to pull the caliper off. I'm going to hang it on a piece of machine wire somewhere over there so it's not just dangling. We're going to clean up our upper ball joint. Take the castle nut. We'll take the cotter key out, take the castle nut out. Pop just the upper control arm off. Once we get the upper control arm off, and this is going to go boom down there, then we can get in there, and I'm going to show you what I do with those shocks and then to get those out, because I don't like front shocks. They stink. More to that here in a second. So 30 years of Impala SS stuff, it's kind of grimy and dingy and gross in there. We're to the point where I want to pull the bottom bolts out of the shock, and they are on the bottom down there. They're 213 half-inch millimeters. So as you can see, it's a body clip, and that body clip is not very good looking. So we're going to try to take that out. If it snaps off, so be it, because it's right there to get to. It's easy enough. But you got two of them, one on each side, the other one's over there. I'm gonna knock those out. Then we're gonna I'll clean up the castle nut there, get the cotter key out, pull the castle nut off, get our ball joint fork, put it up in the ball joint, pop this off, and then we should be able to go on to our next step, which is gonna be removing that shock. And I got a surprise for you on that, because that top one up there, to get that off, that's not fun. Okay, got that cleaned up. Cotter key, you can see, is out. Don't reuse those, come on, get new ones. So, reason being I got it all cleaned up instead of just reefing on it is because when you go to take an old ball joint out, I highly suggest using the closed end of a wrench. Don't use this end, because you're going to strip it and then you're going to have a bad day. You'll have a better chance of yanking it with this closed end side. So cleaning it up like that, giving yourself all the fighting chance you can, you'll appreciate it in the long run. So I'm going to knock this out, and then we'll get into next step, which will be the ball joint fork
tool. So I loosened up the castle nut. You can see got about a, I don't know, half-inch, quarter-inch space between there. And what you're gonna do is you get yourself one of these. You can rent them, you can buy them. It's a ball joint fork. Makes that cool sound. Stop. And what you gotta do is you gotta put the fork into between the ball joint and the control arm on the bottom side there. And you want to try to not rip that boot, because if you rip that boot right there, you're gonna be spewing out grease when you go to pop your grease gun on your Zerk fitting and start moving it up. It'll just ooze out, leak out, go everywhere, and you'll have a bad day. So try not to rip the boot. It can be done very easily with this. Some guys do get aggressive and they beat the top of the knuckle and it'll pop off with the spring and all that. I don't like doing that. I like using the ball joint tools. Once we get it loose, it's just basically gonna drop down from all the pressure and stay on that nut. We'll have to get a jack up the lower control arm, get it pressure taken off, unscrew that. Then we'll be able to raise our control arm up out of the way. So let's see if I can record this and do this at the same time. It's just because I don't know. I need two hands. Where do I put it? Let's go more so right there. Sure. See how it popped down? That means it's done. See how bad we ripped our boot. Not good. Yep. You can see right there. We put a tear in it. We put a tear in it. We got grease coming out. Boy howdy, does it pay to shop around. O'Reilly's, them in stock, $50 a piece. Need 4. It's $200. Oof. Okay, well, don't necessarily need them today. Check out the Rock Auto. They're still like $20 a piece. I'm like, it's not bad. Well, got one more place to check. Check eBay. eBay's always good for like variety packs and having 4-packs and everything you need. I got all 4 of them from Detroit Axle for $34, $40 shipped. Pays to shop around. So 3 ways to get this shock off. 1, you get in there, you take your 15 millimeter and you can get it undone without the piston silver chromy part spinning inside the shaft. Second way is, if it does spin, is you can take a pair of V-scripts, clip it on there, then take it off. Or, in my case right now, this one is sitting there spinning even in the vice grip. So I've taken like a die grinder and I've die grind a little notch inside the chrome, clamp that on with the vice grip to get it to spin. Or, since I really don't feel like monkeying with it, the third option is going to be take your Sawzall and just zip that off, and then you're going to be able to pull it off this way. Shock's going to fall down to the bottom. I, unfortunately, got to go around to the store because I don't have any metal Sawzall bits. I just have wood ones. So that's probably where I'm going to end today because it's already getting late and I'm getting frustrated. So be back tomorrow. Well, that escalated quickly. Well, there's where we got it to. Ball joints all pulled off. POR15, that lower control arm frame is kind of gross in the upper control arm. Yeah, well, it's actually about a week later. All my parts finally showed up. So what I did gotten on this is the driver's side. She's all POR15, lower control arm, all that fun stuff. I haven't even cracked into the passenger side yet. I got about 6 hours left in my day that I gotta get it all done and put back together, and it's, yep, it's gonna be fun. So remember, set up your car so you're in the tightest location where you're wrenching on stuff, trying to do things, and then, you know, you don't got a shelf here and like about a foot of room to work. Set yourself up. So I'm gonna knock this side out, paint it, go assemble the other side, come back and assemble this side. Time up. But had to come out, rebuild the sway bar, you know, ordered a new one off Chris list. Yeah. Scratch padded it up, Walmart black paint. Should be ready to go. That lower control arm's drying. Now I'm gonna go start assembling the other side once I get another coat on this. Okay, lower ball joints pressed in, the upper one is in there, resort fittings are in. Spring is in. Again, as a reminder on these springs, you want to make sure to, the lettering went. Lettering is facing up. It's the correct way the spring goes. Make sure you guys can see in there. There's those little forks. You want to make sure to get it on there. Bottom side, the back coil eventually wants to be in the back. This is where it can get a little tricky with springs and stored energies and all that stuff. So just be careful. Okay, so some of you might be wondering why I didn't paint the spindles. Well, because I'm lazy. There, I'm being honest with you. Don't scratch it. Don't scratch it. I did manage to clean off as much grease and everything as I possibly could of the old crap. Because, well, it was not fun. There we go. Loosely on there. Loosely throw this White Castle nut on here. If you're wondering why they're calling them castle nuts, because they look like little castles, see? Don't hurt Angus. Stop. If you can't tell, we're compressing down that spring. The three of you just asked me where about the shock. We ain't there yet. Okay. Lined up. Come on. Couple threads. Okay. All right. We're somewhat out of danger. Okay, so now we're going to do the shock. You're going to have to reuse your old hardware from the bottom, including these clips, which you probably should have put on before you did all that last segment there. But we're going to fish them in there anyway, because you can get it at the bottom. Also note, your shocks have a little anglage going on with that. This part right here. So they're going to be level on the control arm like that, but it's got a bit of an angle to it. So there's a way to put it in for each side. Universal for both sides, just, you know, this side we're going to want to make sure to have it so it's like this an angle, because angle. Also, before you shove it into the hole there, you want to put on some of the other hardwares that comes with. So it comes with these bushings, and it comes with these washers. You're going to want to washer up that, and then put the bushing on like that, and then put it up in there. Because when you try to fish it, it sucks. And then what's in there, then you put the other bushing on, put the other washer on, and then you put the net on. Okay? Are you with me? Good. So let's put these in. Maybe? Yeah. Question mark. Gross. Grease everywhere. This has got to be like the worst kind of grease for coming off this car too. Man, what did I say about things? Fishing in the hole. Oh yeah. More than 2 threads? Oh yeah. Cool. What are you saying on this side? So now what are you gonna do? So now we're gonna affix the castle nuts all the way up in there. And we got new cotter keys. We're gonna slide them in. So for the tie rods, inner outer, you can see they need to be replaced. That's pretty bad. What I did when I removed it, marked in and out, driver's side on this. And what I'm going to do is when I go ahead and assemble these, the links and the inner and outer tie rods, I'm going to go ahead and match it up to the same, size that this one is. That way, when we go to put it back on the car, we'll have somewhat the same alignment set up. Of course, you're still going to have to go to an alignment shop because we're dropping it, but this will at least get us close enough, and then they can figure it out from there with all their science. Well, it's a couple days later. Driver's side's all buttoned up. Inner outer tie rod on that side's all done. Put on. And we're moved on to the passenger side. Paint's dried, or POR 15. It's got some stalactites, stalagmites. I don't know. I had hanging things. So now we got to push in these ball joints. There are many YouTube videos on how to push in a ball joint. The dirty of it is, make sure you get the right size, because if you have a steel control arm and you try to push in a wrong kind of control ball joint into that control arm, ain't gonna work. Likewise, if you have an aluminum style lower control arm in a ball joint's not gonna go in there. So right ball joint for the right tool thing, control arm, doohickey thingy. And you're gonna need the ball joint press. This is the cheap one I got from Harbor Freight. Very inexpensive. It comes with all the little attachments that you need, the cups and everything else. And it's pretty straightforward. You just want one that's bigger around that'll go over there. You gotta have a hole right here, so when the ball joint's pushing in, it just goes like that. And that's gonna go on top here and push them in from the bottom. And then we got this little plate spacer thingy that's gonna go on the bottom here, dinghy, to push it up so we don't damage our zert fitting or anything like that, pressing it in. Now for the top one, they are pretty simple on these. I don't know who came to their senses, but someone did. But they bolt together, so the upper one will be bolted in. It's pretty simple. So enough yapping. I'm gonna get to it. Just one more thing. See, it's got the little spot for the cotter key. Make sure that is parallel again with car. I mentioned it already, but just make sure you do it. Stop yelling at me. Okay, lower is pressed in, upper is bolted in. The upper's got the little lock, just nylon washers to get in there. The lower one's obviously pressed in. You saw that I had this one little cup thing that went over the rubber to fit that on there, so that's nice. And nope, it's got to get pushed down there a little bit more. So I got to snug that up a little bit more. Next step after this, zert fittings. Make sure we're putting those in, top and bottom. Then put our spring in and reassemble. All right, well, let me show you. Sway bar, it's all mounted up in there. And I got all the zert fittings all greased up. Just a reminder before you put your wheels on, grease up them zert fittings. You did it for a while, so you might as well do it now. Okay, wheels going on, dropping this thing down to the ground, and we'll see how much lower we got it in the front. Well, there is the final product. She's all back together. Fortunately, I went to go start it and the battery's dead, so can't pull it out, but there you go. It is sitting a little higher up in the front there because we, it's all new stuff and whatever else, but yeah, she'll settle down. She'll be a nice, stiffer, firmer ride for us. But yeah, I'm happy with that. So just one quick reminder, when you do a job like this, just make sure you're using the required castle nuts and cotter keys. Don't use nails. You don't want to do that. Make sure you get everything put together and you turn the steering and, everything's working before you go ripping down the road, because you don't want something to fall apart when you're going speed. So with that, I got a whole garage I got to clean up. Thanks everyone for watching. Please like, subscribe, share. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. I just announced a giveaway I got coming up. Once we hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, I'm going to announce how you can enter to win that. Pretty simple going to be, but coming soon. But yeah, other than that, hope you enjoyed. Longer video here, but thanks everyone. We'll see you on the next one.